Welcome to your personalized deep dive. This is on power, intrigue, and deception, all kind of orbiting around Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah. It's a fascinating lens to examine history and human behavior through, isn't it?
It really is. Okay, so we've got like historical figures like Louis XIV and Bismarck
Yeah.
right alongside these kind of Machiavellian laws. So what's the mission here? What should we be looking for as we go through these sources?
Well, I think the goal is to unpack these laws, not just as abstract principles, right? But as tools for understanding the often hidden dynamics of power.
Tools. Wow, you make it sound almost like a game.
In a way, it is. I mean, it's a game we're all playing whether we realize it or not, really. The Green argues that by understanding these laws, we can become more conscious players, right? Not just pawns.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's dive in. Let's dive into the first law. Never outshine the master.
This was all about managing perceptions and understanding the psychology of, well, of those in power.
So more than just like, not showing off, right? It's about subtly supporting your boss's ego without making them feel threatened.
Precisely. Think of it like this. Every leader has an insecurity, right? A gap between how they see themselves and how they want to be seen.
And if you accidentally highlight that gap,
You become a threat, even if you never intended to be. And this is where Nicolas Fouquet, Louis XIV's finance minister, kind of went wrong.
Fouquet, the guy who threw the most extravagant party imaginable, all to honor the king, and ended up imprisoned for it.
Exactly. He failed to grasp the king's vanity. Every lavish detail of that party only served to highlight Fouquet's power, not the king's.
Yeah, it's almost like he was trying to outshine the sun itself. Talk about a miscalculation.
Indeed. This isn't just about sucking up to your boss, though, is it? It's about understanding what they value most and subtly positioning yourself as, supporting that, even if it means downplaying your own achievements in other areas.
Okay. Yeah, that's a much deeper takeaway than just like don't outshine your boss. It's about like understanding the psychology of power dynamics, huh?
Precisely. Let's move on to Law 4. Always say less than necessary.
Oh, this one feels so relevant today in our age of like social media oversharing. I'm definitely guilty of this myself.
It's about cultivating an aura of intrigue, isn't it? Think of it like a strategic silence that forces others to fill the void, revealing more about themselves in the process.
So instead of over-explaining, you create this space for others to project their own thoughts and assumptions.
Exactly. It's like leaving a blank canvas for others to paint on, right? They
Right.
reveal their hand while you remain a mystery.
Bismarck was a master of this, wasn't he? When everyone expected him to support war with Austria, he gave that speech praising Austria and warning against like needless conflict.
And it was that unexpected move that catapulted him to power, wasn't it? It showcased his strategic thinking and set him apart from the kind of, I guess, the predictable rhetoric that others were using.
So sometimes holding back can be more powerful than speaking out.
Precisely. A well-placed silence can be far more impactful than a torrent of words. It forces people to think, to wonder, to try and decipher your intentions.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these laws aren't just about like manipulation, but also about like self-control and strategy. Let's talk about Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument.
This law reminds us that actions speak louder than words, especially when it comes to, well, to persuasion.
Yeah, it's about letting your results speak for themselves, right? Less talk, more action.
Precisely. Green argues that arguing, even if you win the debate, often creates resentment. You haven't truly persuaded, you've just silenced your opponent.
Yeah. The story of Michelangelo and that giant marble block everyone thought was ruined is a perfect example of this.
Michelangelo, a true master. Instead of arguing with his critics, he took that seemingly unusable block and sculpted the magnificent David. He let his masterpiece speak for itself.
Imagine trying to argue with a masterpiece. Yeah, case closed.
Exactly. This is about focusing on tangible results,
Yeah.
not verbal sparring. It's about demonstrating your worth through your actions, not your words.
Okay, now for a law that initially struck me as a bit harsh. Law 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
Well, this law may seem ruthless, but I think it highlights the importance of protecting your emotional and mental space.
Yeah.
We've all encountered those people who just seem to drain the energy from a room.
Oh, absolutely. The chronic complainers, the drama magnets, the ones who always seem to be surrounded by chaos.
Green uses the example of Lola Montez, a captivating but ultimately destructive figure who left a trail of, broken hearts and ruined lives in her wake.
Lola Montez, the femme fatale who charmed her way into the good graces of powerful men only to bring them down with her own instability.
Precisely. While empathy is important, we also need to be mindful of who we allow into our inner circle, don't we? Sometimes self-preservation requires strategic avoidance.
Yeah. It's like that saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose wisely.
Exactly. Protect your energy and focus on those who uplift and inspire you. Now let's talk about a law that embodies a bit of cunning. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker.
This one is all about using deception to gain the upper hand. It reminds me of those con artists, Philip Arnold and John Slack, who pulled off that incredible diamond mine hoax.
Oh yeah, they were masters of playing on people's vanity and greed, weren't they?
They pretended to be these naive country bumpkins who had stumbled upon a diamond mine. They even salted the mine with fake gems to make it seem legit.
And it conned some of the most powerful financiers of the time. It's a classic example of how appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah. What's fascinating to me is how they used people's assumptions against them, right? They played on the stereotype of the dumb country bumpkin to make their victims feel superior.
And that superiority blinded them to the con, didn't it? They underestimated their opponents, assuming they were, too simple to pull off such an elaborate scheme.
It's a reminder that we all have biases and blind spots, and those who understand how to exploit them can gain a significant advantage.
Precisely. This law teaches us to be wary of those who appear too good to be true and to question our own assumptions. Now, let's delve into a law that focuses on strategic withdrawal. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge.
Sometimes the best way to deal with an obstacle is to simply ignore it.
Right, exactly. It's about mastering the psychology of desire and attention. Sometimes the more we focus on something we can't have, the more power it holds over us.
Henry VIII's quest to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, that's a perfect example of this, isn't it?
Henry VIII was a master of strategic withdrawal. He defied the Pope, diminished Catherine's status, and focused on building his own power base. He knew that direct confrontation would only strengthen the opposition.
So instead of getting bogged down in a fight he couldn't win, he created his own path.
Precisely. This law reminds us that sometimes strategic withdrawal can be more powerful than direct confrontation, right? It's about choosing your battles wisely and knowing when to walk away.
Yeah. It's almost like a judo move, using your opponent's strength against them.
Exactly. Redirecting their energy and attention while you focus on your own goals. Now let's explore a law that emphasizes the importance of, understanding and appealing to people's desires and fears. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others.
This one seems especially relevant for anyone in a leadership position.
Right, absolutely. It's about the art of persuasion, not through force, but through understanding. It's about tailoring your approach to appeal to a person's specific desires and fears.
Marie Antoinette, despite her initial popularity, she completely missed this memo, didn't she?
Her downfall was her failure to connect with the French people. She ignored their struggles, becoming a symbol of the very system they revolted against.
Yeah, she became a caricature, completely out of touch with the reality of the people she ruled.
It's a stark contrast to leaders like Napoleon, who understood the power of symbolism, propaganda, and appealing to the masses.
Yeah, Napoleon knew how to make people feel seen and heard, even if it was all part of a carefully crafted image.
Precisely. This law reminds us that true power lies not just in authority, but in the ability to influence and inspire. It's about connecting with people on an emotional level, understanding their desires and fears, and speaking to their hearts as well as their minds.
Okay, we're on a roll. Let's tackle the final law for this part of our deep dive. Law 48. Assume formlessness. This one sounds almost philosophical.
It is, in a way. It argues that adaptability and elusiveness can be more potent than rigid structures.
It's like that saying, be like water, my friend, adapting to any container flowing around obstacles.
Think of Mao Zedong's strategic use of formlessness in the Chinese Civil War.
Yeah, his troops were constantly moving, dispersing, and regrouping, which completely baffled the nationalist forces who were, used to traditional warfare.
It was like trying to punch water.
Yeah.
They couldn't pin him down.
So this law is about being adaptable, about not getting stuck in rigid ways of thinking or acting.
Precisely. In a world that is constantly changing, those who can adapt and evolve will ultimately thrive.
This has been an incredible start to our exploration of power dynamics. Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power are certainly more than just like a list of rules. They're a framework for understanding the subtle and often unspoken rules of the game we're all playing.
And by understanding these rules, we can become more conscious players,
Right.
right? Making more strategic choices and navigating the complexities of power with greater awareness.
We'll be back in part two to delve even deeper into this fascinating world of power, intrigue, and deception. Stay tuned. It's funny how these laws, even ones that seem kind of ruthless, they make you see things in a whole new light. Like I'm rethinking every interaction I've had today.
That's the power of a new lens, isn't it? It's not about condoning these tactics, but understanding them. Knowledge is power, as they say.
Exactly. Okay, so where do we go from here? What other laws are we unpacking in this deep dive?
Well, let's look at one that blends boldness with a deep understanding of human nature. Law 28. Enter action with boldness.
Okay, boldness. I can see how that's important, but isn't there a risk of coming off as, I don't know, arrogant or reckless?
There's a fine line, for sure. But think of it like this. Boldness without substance, it's just noise. True boldness is backed by, careful planning and an understanding of your audience.
So it's not just about being like loud or flashy. It's about making a calculated move that captures attention and inspires confidence.
Precisely. And a fascinating example of this is the art dealer, Joseph Duveen. He didn't just sell paintings, he orchestrated desires.
Wait, tell me more about this guy. How did he use boldness to sell art?
Well, Duveen understood that the ultra-wealthy weren't just buying art, they were buying status. He targeted the most influential collectors, knowing their taste would become everyone else's, well, aspiration.
So he went for the trendsetters, the ones who set the bar.
Exactly. He focused on Andrew Mellon, a
Yeah.
tycoon known for his discerning taste. And Duveen, he spent years studying Mellon, learning his preferences, even befriending his staff to get insider information.
Wow, he really did his homework. It's like he was playing a long game, setting the stage for the perfect moment.
And then the bold move, he engineered a chance encounter with Mellon at London's National Gallery, a collection that was perfectly aligned with Mellon's taste. And Duveen dazzled him with his knowledge and insights.
So it wasn't just luck, it was calculated boldness meeting opportunity.
Precisely. And Mellon became one of Duveen's biggest clients. And I think this shows that boldness, when it's informed and strategic, can be, well, incredibly persuasive.
Okay, that's a far cry from just barging into your boss's office and demanding a raise. It's about strategic timing and understanding your target psychology.
Absolutely.
Good.
Now let's look at a law that might seem a bit more ethically ambiguous. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew.
Okay, thumbscrew. That sounds intense. What's this one all about?
It's about understanding and, if necessary, exploiting people's weaknesses. We all have vulnerabilities, right?
Yeah.
Things that motivate us, things that scare us or make us tick.
Mm.
And this law says, find them.
Yeah, I can see how this could be powerful, but also, incredibly dangerous. Isn't this crossing the line into like manipulation?
It depends on how it's used, right? Think of John D. Rockefeller, the oil tycoon. He was ruthless, but he understood his rivals' weaknesses better than they did themselves.
So he didn't just compete, he strategically targeted their vulnerabilities.
Exactly. If a competitor was over-leveraged, he'd squeeze them financially. If they were prone to emotional outbursts, he'd provoke them into making rash decisions.
So he was like playing chess while they were playing checkers. He saw the bigger picture.
He did. Now, I'm not saying we should all become, cutthroat manipulators, but understanding people's motivations, even their darker ones, is crucial in any power dynamic.
It's like knowing the pressure points, not necessarily to inflict pain, but to understand how someone might react.
Precisely. Let's shift gears to a lighter law, one that's all about self-belief and presentation. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one.
Okay, I like the sound of this one already, so fake it till you make it, basically.
Not quite. It's about cultivating an aura of confidence and authority, even if you're, not yet in a position of power.
So it's not about arrogance, but about carrying yourself with a certain presence.
Exactly. Think of the Yellow Kid, a notorious con artist. This guy swindled the most sophisticated marks by radiating this aura of wealth and success.
So he played the part even if he wasn't actually a king.
He was a master of illusion. He He staged these elaborate schemes, always impeccably dressed, speaking with confidence, surrounded by accomplices who made him seem legit.
And people fell for it just because of the way he presented himself.
They were blinded by the allure of what they thought he represented. He played on their desires, their greed, their longing for a piece of the good life.
It's a reminder that how we present ourselves matters. People judge us, consciously or not, on, our appearance, our demeanor, our confidence.
Absolutely. Now, this next law might seem a bit counterintuitive. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others.
Wait, so you're saying I should conform? That seems at odds with everything we've been talking about, standing out, being bold.
It's about picking your battles. Sometimes, especially when you're not yet in a position of strength, it's wiser to blend in, observe, and build your power subtly.
So play the game, even if you don't agree with the rules.
Think of Queen Elizabeth I. She was expected to marry, produce an heir, but she used that expectation to her advantage, kept her suitors dangling, never fully committing, and in doing so, she consolidated her own power.
She used the system's expectations against itself. Clever.
She was a master of strategic conformity. She appeared conventional, even as she was, making groundbreaking decisions behind the scenes.
So it's not about being a sheep. It's about knowing when to don the sheep's clothing.
Exactly. Sometimes the most effective path to power is through, subtle influence, not outright rebellion.
These historical examples are really, really bringing these laws to life. I'm starting to see how they can be applied in so many different contexts.
That's the beauty of studying history and human behavior, isn't it? We can draw parallels and extract these valuable lessons that are still relevant today. We'll continue exploring more in part 3.
I'm starting to see these laws less as hard and fast rules and more like lenses to view the world through.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. They're not about becoming a manipulative mastermind, right? But about understanding the forces at play in any power dynamic.
Exactly. Okay, so what other insights can we uncover in this final part of our deep dive?
Let's talk about a law that emphasizes discernment and strategic thinking. Law 40. Despise the free lunch.
Despise the free lunch. Okay, that definitely goes against conventional wisdom.
Well, it's about recognizing that nothing is truly free.
Right.
Right. Every gift, every favor creates an obligation.
So it's not about being ungrateful, but about understanding the potential strings attached.
Precisely. Think of Louis XIV, the Sun King. He was a master of using gifts and favors to control his court.
Yeah, he showered his nobles with lavish gifts, titles, and privileges, but he expected their unwavering loyalty in return.
He created a system where everyone was vying for his favor, constantly indebted to him. Brilliant strategy from a power perspective.
It's like that old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's always a cost, even if it's, not immediately apparent.
Exactly. And this law encourages us to be wary of those bearing gifts, right? And to carefully consider the implications before accepting.
Okay, that's a valuable lesson, especially in a world where everyone's trying to get something from you. Now, let's talk about a law that highlights the importance of strategic targeting. Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter.
This one is about recognizing the key figures who hold power and how neutralizing them can dismantle an entire group.
So it's not about attacking everyone, but about identifying the linchpin, the one that holds everything together.
Precisely. And this tactic has been used throughout history, from ancient warfare to modern politics and business.
The Mongol conquests under Genghis Khan are a prime example. He targeted opposing commanders, knowing that their removal would sow chaos and demoralization.
Yeah, it was a brilliant strategy for achieving swift and decisive victories. He understood that leadership is often the Achilles heel of any organization.
It's like that saying, cut off the head and the body will die. A bit morbid, but effective.
Yeah, indeed. This law highlights the importance of, understanding the power structure of any group and identifying the key players.
Speaking of leadership, let's talk about a law that warns against the dangers of following in the footsteps of a great predecessor. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes.
This one is especially relevant for those who inherit a position of power or a legacy that's, hard to live up to.
It's that feeling of being in someone's shadow, always being compared to the person who came before.
Think of Alexander the Great. He inherited his father's empire, but he knew he couldn't simply imitate him. He had to forge his own path.
He had to step out of Philip's shadow and create his own legacy.
Exactly, and he did so brilliantly. He embraced his own unique strengths, pushing the boundaries of his father's empire and becoming one of history's greatest military commanders.
So this law isn't saying don't be ambitious. It's saying don't try to be someone else. Be yourself, even if it means defying expectations.
Precisely. It's about finding your own voice, your own style of leadership. It's about carving your own path, not following in someone else's footsteps.
Yeah. I think that's a great note to end on. This deep dive into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power has been incredibly, incredibly enlightening. It's made me rethink my own assumptions about power, strategy, and human behavior.
These laws, even the ones that seem a bit ruthless, offer valuable insights into the dynamics of power that have shaped history and continue to shape our world today.
Yeah, it's not about condoning manipulation, but about understanding the forces at play. Knowledge is power, but it's up to us to use that power wisely and ethically.
And remember, these laws are just tools. How we choose to use them ultimately reflects our own values and intentions.
Thank you for guiding me through this fascinating exploration. I'm definitely going to be looking at the world with a more discerning eye from now on. And to our listener, I hope you found this deep dive as thought-provoking as I did. Until next time.